Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Christensen, a licensed prayer practitioner here at Light on the Mountains. And it's time for each one of us to take a deep breath and settle in, relax, and see if we can just go right within. I know there is one universal spirit, one infinite intelligence, one divine presence, one creative force. That force, that presence is here right now within each one of us and is within everything in the universe. It is all there is, but it is everything in the universe. And it is love and joy and beauty, peace and harmony, order and balance, goodness, wisdom, intelligence, infinite abundance, and perfect health. And I know that all of that goodness is here too within each and every one of us, and always is. And I am so grateful for that, and so grateful for this philosophy, and for each and every person who is here today. And I give thanks for this wonderful community and for everyone who makes it so, for Reverend John and his perfect messages, for R.L. and Max and whoever is doing the music. They are always wonderful, thanks to R.L. And I give thanks to our leadership council and to Sarah, who's in the kitchen making sure those at home can see us, and to those who do all the volunteering, for Donna, who is always helping with the goodies afterwards. And I give thanks for every one of us, for this absolutely beautiful day and for this lovely holiday season and all the goodness that comes out during that time. And together we say, and so it is. Okay. My reading this morning is from the December Science and Mind magazine, which is quite wonderful. And I couldn't resist the hero of the year, John Pavlovitz. So I'm going to read a little bit, probably too much, sorry, from the article about him. He was interviewed for this, and it's the first article in the magazine. For those who prefer spiritual leaders stay out of the fray, shy away from political matters, and not stray from the church's lane, John Pavlovitz may seem an unlikely spiritual leader. His messages of inclusivity, of acceptance, of the purest form of love create a kind of tension between his church of not being horrible and mainstream religious and political coalitions. Upon closer examination, Pavlovitz's message centers on the precise message encapsulated in the Centers for Spiritual Living, in the Centers for Spiritual Living's vision, quotes, to create a world that works for all, quote. The mission of his church is simply, don't be horrible to people. And his doctrine is to treat each person as worthy of love, respect, dignity, and joy. A central tenet assures followers that each of us is worthy of opportunities for acceptance and embraced by the whole, simply by being human. In his brutally honest and compassionate work of finding and bolstering the connections that bind us one to another, and in his approach of speaking truth to power in all aspects of our lives, including politics, Pavlovitz places his feet along the paths crafted by religious and spiritual leaders across the breadth of history. See. Although he does not liken himself to the luminaries of time, readers, parishioners, and followers may find in him a hearkening to those once considered divisive, even revolutionary in their work. In recent history, his work may remind us of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his demand for a more just society based on equity and equality, or of the brothers and Catholic priests Daniel and Philip Berrigan in their relentless protests of the Vietnam War and advocacy for peace. He may remind us of Ernest Holmes, our founder, who wrote, "Realizing that I am one with all people, I affirm that there is a silent power, capital P, flowing through me and them, which blesses and heals and prospers, makes happy and glad their pathway, and realizing that the world is made up of people like myself, I bless the world and affirm that it shall come under the divine government of good, capital G, under the divine providence of love, and under the divine leadership of the supreme intelligence." Pavlovitz writes, "The truth is, dear friend, there are far more people in this place working for equality, diversity, love, and justice than opposing them, and it isn't even close. There are hundreds of millions of people in this world who, just like you, wake up every day trying to be the kind of person the world needs, lavish with compassion, overflowing with generosity, and relentless with love. You are, even when you're not aware of it, surrounded on all sides by like-hearted people who are not okay with the suffering and ugliness around them." And there's more, but I think that's probably enough for this morning. Okay, so it is now time to do our affirmation for December, which is on the insert right here in red. So we should say this together, please. So I am an individual expression of the divine, who is a unique yet one with the unlimited nature of the universe.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, R.L.
Good morning, everyone. Thought of the day. I finished my last holiday concert on Friday night until Christmas Eve here. And I realized there's some days between last Friday and Christmas Eve. What am I going to do? Yesterday I cleared off the dining room table. That took most of the day. So you can imagine how abundant my time has been in the last few weeks, and I am grateful for every opportunity and curious about what the gifts are that are in store during the week this week. I still have daytime work and all of those things to do, but I actually have a little time, to sit and look at the tree, to visit with some friends, to ponder some questions. What is this whole season of holiday about? What is this Christ consciousness that we celebrate? Where does it live? I have a hearty feeling that it lives in us, inside, not on the beautiful tree, though that tree is really lovely, and not in all the amazing lights that are around. I think they are a reflection. I love, and the thought that there are many more of us that are out there looking for good, for kindness, for equality, for celebration, than there are people opposing it. I believe that, though it's hard to hold on to that sometimes. I throw this out as my real thought today. I think sometimes we think we have to be exceptional to be worthwhile. I challenge that. I think we simply have to be the best that we can be right now, just the best. And sometimes we even falter at that. You know, we stumble, and we're an okay part of who we are. That's okay too. Our intention was right. We don't have to be at the top rung to matter. You simply have to be on the ladder climbing, reaching out for those who need a little help, asking for help when we need it. That's an important part. And remembering those people that feel like they are often, for us, exceptional. Well, I mentioned that because obviously we're here today to celebrate a significant birthday of someone who matters every day. So today is just another one of those special days of celebration. I think where we just heighten the experience. I mean, I don't know about you all, but I think for most of us, we are glad that Bob Grabowski is in our life every day, every single day. And so every now and then we get to do something a little special to acknowledge that. And so thanks for being here today. Thanks for being Bob. This one's just, well, you all can listen to, but this one's for Bob. Because I know it to be one of his favorite songs. I also know that I think Bob has about 184 favorite songs. And since I know there's food afterwards, I won't sing 184 songs for you. But in this time of connection, of acknowledgement, of celebrating newness, celebrating that Christ energy, that seeking to elevate, to open wider, to embrace more. Part of the process is in simply being aware.
Blessed day, the dark, sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. Of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky. They're also on the faces of the people going by. And shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, they're saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow, they'll learn much more than I could ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I love you, Bob. Morning, John.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Well, got the birthday boy right in my sights here. First, I would just like to tell you up front, and the reason why I'm behind here and not over there, I was exposed to COVID this week, so I've been hanging out in my office before, and as soon as I'm done talking, I'm actually going to leave. I've been testing negative, but I just want to be overly cautious, and it's killing me to miss what's going on in there afterwards, but I'm going to make my, as I say, exit stage right when I'm done. R.L. can do a little see you later, go to the other room.
John, we'll call you and tell you about the food.
Yes, I'm sure you will. And so let's air my grievances here. So I can't tell you how many times there's these great things, snacks on Sunday morning, and I come every morning. It's like I get fooled every time on Monday. I'm sure there's going to be something really nice waiting for me in the refrigerator. Gone! You eat it all! You bring it home! So at least leave me a piece of cake, will you? Would it be that difficult to leave me a piece of cake? I'm just saying, so... Yeah, so let me just, let me get back on my ministerial high tower here. Anyways, and welcome all of you who are at home. Sorry that you can't be here as well to miss out on all the good stuff that is happening. And so there's so much going on today, and what I want to do in different ways to celebrate our community, because we have a perfect moment here. I mean, both Bob and Barbara, as well as the whole Grabowski family, who come and go throughout the years, are just at the heart of our community, and in a very quiet way most of the time, except for Barbara. And so that's part of the theme, and we have so much to be grateful for. And on so many levels, and we, as every person in this world, has been through a lot, and we're still here, and I just feel so blessed, and that's really my theme today. The official monthly theme today is, this month in December, is our being part of something larger, and I think that in a sense what we are too. It's just not about our individualism here, it's about something greater, and that's why we look at the stories of Christmas and Hanukkah, that amazing things can happen when you're willing to get out of your way to allow them to happen. And that has happened here as well. And my official topic today is just a sense of belonging. And that's also what I want to talk about today. Of the years that we've been as a spiritual community, many before I came and many after, of a great sense of belonging. And certainly through Bob's birthday, we're celebrating that today. So I have to tell you the story of the first time I met Bob, Reverend Bob here. And it's just kind of an interesting little thing for me personally. So I met Bob in the School of Ministry. He was finishing and I was beginning. So we never had classes together because he was on his way out, I was on my way in. But so the School of Ministry, for those who don't know, it's a 3-year program. It's a master's program. It's pretty extensive. And at the end of each year, there is a group retreat for all the students of all the 3 years. And that year, the first year I was there, Bob's final year, it was, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was this lovely retreat center in Orange County. It was really lovely, great grounds. And I was up in the morning before things got started, and I guess they had a table for coffee out there, and got to, get the things going to get into a meditation practice, to get caffeine in my system. And I ran into Bob, and I had never met Bob before, and I don't know if you even remember this, Bob, and just having a little, chat, and just getting to know him in that 10-minute period. And a couple interesting things happened in that conversation. Once he told me where he was from, Sun Valley, Idaho. Believe it or not, I had never heard of Sun Valley, Idaho in my entire life. All I heard was Idaho, and as an entitled California native, what was going through my brain was, he must be out of his mind to live there. Interesting foreshadowing, isn't that? But what stuck with me from that is, Bob didn't go into great length about Light in the Mountains or the history of what was going on at that time. He just gave a little rundown, and there was that twinkle in his eye when he spoke about what is now the community that I am part of. And even though I thought anyone living in Idaho had lost their mind, I knew he was really happy being up here. But that really took me to about 5 years later when I was starting to look for a job, and this is where I eventually came, and this was obviously one of the possibilities. And at first, when I saw the PDF file, I kind of poo-pooed it because Idaho. But I remembered that twinkle in Bob's eye, and I thought, read it over and give it a chance. And as they say, the rest is history. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. So in telling stories today, we have another anniversary this week that I wasn't really aware of, or at least had forgotten about until a couple days ago, so I'm sure none of you know. Well, first of all, two anniversaries coming up. So on December 31st of 1987, Light in the Mountains Incorporated as a nonprofit entity in the state of Idaho, which means, do the math, we are on the verge of a 35th anniversary celebration. Isn't that kind of amazing? But here's the one I want to tell you about, and this is where I see the strength of our community. So we have many, many stories, which I will not go into today, about how we came to be in this building. It was a process, and those who were here know that it was. Little bit of that, the congregation put money down to purchase this building in June of 2002, before I was here. And there were just many barriers, let's say. So many with planning and zoning and getting conditional use permit and all that sort of thing, that it wasn't until the next September, past one September, go to the next one, that we were given the certificate of occupancy here. And we could talk all afternoon, but we're not going to. But certainly as we got our, the paper, so to speak, got a mortgage, which we retired last year in September. There was a 3-month remodeling process. For some of you who don't know, this was a 3-bedroom home. The social hall was a 3-car garage. So it looked quite different. So there was that question, well, when can we open? When can we have our first service here? And of course, remodels always take longer than you think they're going to. If you don't know, watch Property Brothers or something. You always on Property Brothers, you get them going, do you have a little extra money? Because unless you want rain falling down into your living room, that wasn't one of our issues, but it was like one of those things. But we are getting close, and we are in December, and we are on the verge of setting the date, but we really couldn't set an exact date until we got our occupancy permit signed by the county, and we did. And we actually had our first service in this building the Sunday before Christmas. Guess what Sunday this is? The Sunday before Christmas. But here's a little twist. This is how that I knew without a doubt, even though I'd been here a few months then, the strength and amazing just open-heartedness of this community. So we had everything in place, let's say the Monday of that week when we said, yes, we've got our little thing that we can open. We had everything but the chairs you are sitting in right now. And that was kind of a significant thing. But we were determined. I said, if we have to, go to the botanical gardens, get chairs, yoga mats, anything, we're going to do that. But by miraculous nature, we were called by the company we ordered the chairs from and said, they're on the way. But let me tell you what that trip involved. So we ordered from a company called Church Chair in the state of Georgia. And they're all made to order. We had ordered these months before. As soon as we got the mortgage signed, sealed, and delivered, that was like the first call we made because we needed to get these chairs. And what they do, of course, so it takes a while to do that. And they deliver. But let me tell you how this goes. church chair people, they've got moving vans that shouldn't be on the road. They are so huge. I mean, it's almost like, when you see the moving houses down the road, you go, why are they doing that? That's the kind of trucks they had almost. And so what they do is that they pack that truck in Georgia and they do a grand tour, of course, unloading, and they load it up in the order that they are going, and I think we are like their last stop. And so we were all ready for when it would come. I had like 10 or 15 volunteers on call because the truck guy was going to call us when it was time. And everyone was like, they were calling me, like even Thursday, John, did they call? Did he call? No, the truck guy hasn't called yet. Finally called on Saturday morning, the day before our first service, and he says, I just crossed the state line into Idaho. Great, are you going to be here in a couple hours? No. So I got, of course, updates during the day, and finally, I got a call about 7:30 in the night that he was in Twin Falls. So I alerted our volunteers, and we all gathered here. And of course, remember, it looked like this. Big truck, and it was snowing. And so we're all here, and of course, our volunteers are going to unload the truck, and the chairs aren't like this. They've got plastic coverings, and they've got all sorts of packing. When you buy stuff, and it's like, why is it so much packing? Each chair had that. And so we're going to do that. The volunteers are going to take all that stuff off. And so we get a call from the truck guy at about 10 o'clock, and he says, I'm here. Great, where are you? He says, my truck is too big to get into your parking lot. So I don't know who figured this out, but he turned around, how I don't know, and went back down the highway, turned on Greenhorn, parked in the middle of the road, and unloaded the chairs in the middle of the road. And our volunteers, luckily enough, had pickup trucks and things. And I remember, is Ann Augusta? Jan, you were there. We used your VW van as one of the, we did. And it was amazing, and it's snowing and all that. So we were set up and ready to go by about 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was the most amazing way to launch this new building. It was. So I tell that story because, for one, I want that story to be remembered. But I also tell that story to show the heart of why we come together as a spiritual community. We don't believe that there is a supreme being that dictates that we come together on Sunday mornings. In fact, we don't believe that there's any dictate to have a faith community or any sorts, that we are all connected to the power and presence of the divine, not as an external being, but as a presence that is within all things, and it is everywhere. So the presence of the divine is no more present here than it is in your basement, actually. But there is something special when we come to a place to recognize its presence. And that's what we do here. And that's why a group of people here, I think, are amazing for doing that. So one of the main things that we teach here for those who may have just stumbled in the door for the first time, along that line, I was reminded by something I reread by Matthew Fox this week. And I included this on my blog, so if you read my blog, you read this. But Matthew Fox, for those who don't know who he was, or is, he's still around, he's a prolific author. He used to be a Catholic priest, and I guess his beliefs were a little bit too progressive for his old job. And one of the first books he wrote that really changed my life in a big way in the 1990s was a book called Original Blessing. And some of you it's a kind of a classic now, so you may have stumbled across it at some point in your history. But here's the take of Original Blessing. So as a Catholic priest, he was taught and was told to teach that everyone came into this world with original sin. That we came into the world already flawed. And that we had to do something very drastic, or a series of things very drastic, to be healed from that flaw. In fact, the belief at the time I was raised Catholic, I'm assuming it's the same now, that unless if you were baptized, that flaw would be there, and it would stay with you for eternity and keep you back from a heavenly experience. But his belief was that we don't come into this world with an original sin, but we come as originally blessed. That instead of having to get better, our job here is to remember how great we already are. That there is a lot of evidence to tell us to the contrary. There are things that happen to our life, to ourselves physically, and in our houses and homes and families and in the world that are so much evidence that we are innately flawed instead of innately blessed. And I believe our path here, or why we chose to come here as spiritual human beings, is to understand that blessing and uncover it. And it's difficult because everything we have been told is the contrary. So it's a big job. And in fact, I believe that the more evidence that we have in front of us that we're not blessed is just proof of all that's coming up for us to look at and dismiss and get to the truth of who we are. And in fact, as I've said many times over the last few years, everything that we have convinced ourselves as being true has come up for us to relook at, to re-see, to reform, and to re-believe. Anything that we brushed under the carpet in our families or on a national or global basis has come out to play. And it is our job in a spiritual path to realize that there is an original blessing in this all. And it is our job to affirm it, to see it, to allow it to expand, to bring it from the depths of our soul into our communities and our country, even when it seems so impossible and difficult to do. I know we often like to talk about how we would like to do great things in the world, don't we? Don't we have fantasies of we hear of someone doing someone like Mandela or something. Gee, I wish I could do something that big. You can. You can do it at your Christmas dinner with those with whom you may be uncomfortable being at the same table with. See, it doesn't start with the global. It starts on the very personal level. When we come across those people or things that we think is just unlovable, that if we believe in the concept of original blessing, but at the same time, we see that person or thing as somehow being exempt from it, thinking that that one little thing is carved out from that everything else has a blessing or the power and presence of the divine in it, but somehow this thing is so bad and so contrary that it is the exception. That is where our spiritual work is of the day. To not see the original blessing where you like to see it, but see it where it troubles you most. And that's what we do as a spiritual community, to help each other along the way a little bit. When we have those things that happen, you just think, gosh, how could any of this blessing stuff be true when I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing? But it is. As I've said a lot over the last few weeks, Spirit plays the long game. It's the longer arc of what is happening. That I truly believe that we are on the precipice of such amazing things in this world. I really do. And every time where I see someone misbehaving yet again, at least in my opinion, I know it's just for us to look at and re-see again. And partially for me to release my negative attachment to thinking it's bad. It doesn't mean that we don't take physical action in our lives to make things right. But it starts with where you are in the presence of the belief of knowing that something greater is here anyway. And it's not easy. I also cut out a little thing from Matthew Fox from another book of his called Creativity. He says, chaos is a prelude to creativity. We need to learn as every artist needs to learn, to live with chaos, and indeed to dance with it as we listen to it and attempt some order. Artists wrestle with chaos, take it apart, deconstruct and reconstruct from it. Accept the challenge to convert chaos into some kind of order, respecting the timing of it all, not pushing beyond what is possible, combining holy patience with holy impatience. That is the role of the artist. It is each of our roles as we launch the 21st century, because we are all crafted to be artists in our own way. We were all artists as children. We need to study the chaos around us in order to turn it into something beautiful, something sustainable, something that remains. So it's a big responsibility, but I think we're up to it. I just love this line of combining holy patience with holy impatience. Did you like that? Because sometimes we think that, well, if I have true faith that the presence of divine is all things, I can just kind of float around on my prayer cushion and all things will be handled. You know, I'm delegating through prayer here. Yeah, you know, get going over there. But the holy impatience is the realization that we all, as we are connected to the divine presence within us, we know when it's time to step out of prayer and step into the world with prayer in action. And that's what that impatience is. It's that little thing of, now it's time to make the steps. I know I'm uncomfortable. I know I don't want to leave my room. I know I just would rather someone else do it. But that little thing within us, that holy impatience says, the time is now and your name is on it. And that happens to each and every one of us, each and every day, in ways both large and small. And I believe that that is the strength of our community. It is really wonderful to look in the rearview mirror and see how some of the most difficult things in our lives just had a way of working out. I look at my history here, and there were a couple of moments I thought, well, how are we going to get out of this one? Things like the big recession of 2008. When we closed our doors with COVID, thinking, how are we going to survive? We did because of you. And as I talk to my colleagues, they have the same experience. And we are in the mode now that we are creating anew. But what we need to do, and when realizing original blessings, is this. When we are in the middle of yet another challenge, it is hard to bring up that faith or intention that it will work out the way that it needs to work out. Not the way that you always humanly want it to work out, but in the way that is best for all. And I always tell people, why would this be the first time that it didn't work out? I mean, look into your histories. Again, it didn't always turn out the way that you humanly would have liked to have controlled it to work out. But it had a way of working out in a way that was amazing. And maybe in a way that you still experienced a little bit of letting go and loss. But in the larger picture, from in the rearview mirror, we can all see how there were great benefits and gifts and blessings out of that, even if there were things that we are still grieving from that moment. We can see it in the rearview mirror. So let's take that knowledge and take it to our present moment. Anything that may be challenging and difficult in your life right now, remember how things have worked out well before. Remember now for our communities in our country and the world, when there just seems like this is too big to solve. It's not. It may not turn out the way we exactly would like to if we had complete control, but it will still turn out as something amazing. So, just going to end with one more Reverend Bob story here, one he has told many times, but I'm going to tell my version of it, and how things work out. So, this story happened before I came here, and Light of the Mountains, like any other faith community, was a startup 35 years ago. There were many times that you thought, we're donezo. Like, we've done good work, but it's just not working out anymore. And I believe everything has its shelf life. I don't believe that when something goes away or dissolves that it's a bad thing. Everything has its own natural course. But apparently there was a time before I came here that, where Light in the Mountains was meeting in hotel rooms across the valley on Sundays, and even in the Grabowski's home and garden for a period of time. And I guess there was a period of time that looks like may have reached its end. And as Bob tells it, he said that he brought together, I think, 10 or 12 people who were course people at that time, which probably at that time, all the people might have been 10 or 12. And just looking at it like, basically the question that we can all ask in anything in our lives, are we complete? Do we congratulate ourselves on work well done and move on? Or is it time to shift and renew and remake? And they wanted to continue and renew and remake, and of course they looked at the budget. And this is our monthly number of what it takes at Light in the Mountains at that level to pay its bills and break even. And so they had, I think, the quickest pledge program known to our history. From what I'm told, they said they anonymously on a piece of paper write down what you are willing to support each month. And as Bob tells it, when they tallied these ballots or whatever they are, it came up to the exact number that was needed. So that was the sign that, no, we weren't done. We need to rethink it. We may need to be more creative in how we move forward, but not done. So I also think of that story on occasion as well when I feel done. We all feel done sometimes, don't we? As long as you're breathing, you're not done. You may need to come up with a new plan, but you're not done. You may have to really dig deeply for that new plan, but you're not done. So today we celebrate our community. We celebrate Bob. We celebrate Barbara. We celebrate us all. And let's pat ourselves on the back a little bit. You've all done good. We have. So with that, I'm going to say my closing prayer and exit. I just have to say that my quick exit is a little delayed because there's a car behind me. And I just, not that I want to embarrass anyone, but Pamela, when R.L. is done with his song, could you just come out and move your car out? I'll pull out, and you can pull into my spot because you're right behind me. Enjoy the party. I can't tell you how much I regret not being able to be here, but I'm glad I could be here under the circumstances that I was able to. So let's just go within and know our community as an original blessing. I know Reverend Bob as well as Reverend Barbara and their whole family as original blessings. And each person here, each person who has crossed our door throughout these 35 years, who have come and gone, and who remain, they are part of that original blessing. And I give thanks for each and every one of them. I know that something has been created here and continues to be created here that is larger than life, greater, its sum is greater than the parts, that we live in the presence of the divine right where we are. And so as we move into a 36th year, as we move into the miraculous nature of the holidays, we dig deep and know that anything is possible. It may not look exactly as we want, but anything is possible. And so in this holiday season, we sit in that knowledge, in that affirmation that we are part of something greater and we belong to it. And so it is.